Right, so on the last video of this, I did say that I wanted to revisit it and go underneath and clean that all up and get that painted or undersealed or whatever was the best option. And it is actually a few years later and the time has come to do it. Now what started this was I was building some cabinets for the back and I wanted to wash in here and get it painted just because it looks a bit rough. And I found a small hole here which I've fixed and I just put some underseal over it. And then it sort of snowballed from there. You can see the original repairs are all still good. So you can see here there was a hole and that's been patched. That was an original one. There was the same on this side as well, which has been done. You can still see the original repairs holding up good, and there it's all solid. Then I decided to take the plastics off because I would like to paint them, and then I found that in here was rotten at the front, so I've had to replace that, and it went right back to here. So that's basically a whole new sill that side's had. It's never usually just one side, so I decided to check this side as well, and it needed a small patch as well. And the front in there as well needed done. It's all been done. There was a patch in here as well, small patch there. And while I had the liners off and the wheel arch, I could see through to the alternator, which you can't see now because I've taken it out, but the wire was a bit crusty looking on it, the heavy duty wire, the battery cable. So I wanted to take it out and fix it. So I had the alternator out, and then I knew that there was probably something wrong with the turbo because the turbo sometimes wouldn't boost right. So I decided while the alternator was out, I'll take the turbo out. So I decided while the alternator was out, I'd take the turbo out because it wasn't boosting correctly. So I've bought a new turbo. We've got the alternator fixed, we've got the wire fixed. There's some areas in here that were fixed as well. Picked up some rust converter. This was actually recommended by a guy that watched the other video, so hopefully it'll work for the rusty areas. I've got some rust inhibiting primer I'm going to put on the new patches, and basically some underseal that's just going to go in around the wheel arches. Also bought a brand new turbo. It's a cheap copy turbo, but this car isn't going to do a huge amount of miles, so I thought I'd give it a go. It's not that hard to change the turbo, just as long as it doesn't explode. So this is the old turbo. I've dismantled it just to see what was going on. Usually you can tell how worn they are by giving the shaft a wiggle there. And this, it's not terrible, but it does actually look like it'll touch the side. So from that point of view it's not great. But I think the biggest problem with this was here. That is the wastegate, and if you can see there, the seat is all rotted out. So with the wastegate closed and the turbo trying to boost, I suspect a lot of my boost was escaping past that seat, which isn't good and is basically not fixable because that is part of that housing. So that's why I bought a new one. So we're going to paint these patches, and then all around the back where it's rusty, you can see it around here. The floor pan, even though it's all solid, is quite rusty, so I want to get that all done with that rust converter, and hopefully that will delay any more rust from happening. So let's get it done. That's quite wet. Alright, just got finished up lashing that stuff on. Kind of looks like I've gone overboard, but I don't think you can really go overboard with this stuff. The more the merrier. It dries in. You can see it has dried in there, that's where I started, and it sort of leaves a nice sheen and hopefully kills the rust. But I'll probably still need to cover all this in that underseal because it's like a patchwork quilt at the minute. But what I wanted to get done the most was like in round the floor pan where it was all rusty and all along the sills, which I have got. So I'm quite happy with this. The problem you're going to run, the problem always is going to be rusting from the inside out, like inside the sills and then inside the frame. I do have some left, so I'm going to change the applicating gun, and I'm going to change the gun and try and squirt that stuff into the holes in the frame as well, and that should hopefully try and prolong its life. It's quite cool looking until it dries in. Wow! Look at that! So this is the next day, so it hasn't even had 24 hours, which is what's recommended. But you can see that is awesome. Everywhere that was brown and rusty is now black and rusty. But it is very cool. And it's dried hard as well. It's not like, you know, it's not going to be sticky if you're ever working around it again, which I will be. So it's left like a shiny finish. In round here was particularly bad. Although I didn't need to, I did all the front suspension as well just to see how it would turn out, and that's quite good.
Very good.
So once this is all done with the under seal and blended in, it'll look quite good. Alright, that looks good. Now we'll get this turbo fitted. I have to get these studs out because the new one annoyingly doesn't come with studs. I would definitely have just bought new studs if I knew I needed to. Come all the gaskets that you need but doesn't, oh there we go, doesn't come with studs.
I can do this, Daddy. Look, Daddy.
Oh, you are some bicyclist.
And then that. What? Come here. What?
Are you okay?
Yes. I can't see a circle. And then. That's not working now. It's not working. And then look what. And the steering's not working that much. What? Not working anymore, my steering. My steering is not working. It is. Let me see. Oh, it's kind of hard. I want to do some of that. You want the handlebar tire, dude? Yeah. Like up there? Not like that. There? That's big. That's big. Let's see if it's the lowest, highest volume. Or if there's higher. What if it goes like, whoo?
This is one of the water cooling pipes that goes from the block to the turbo, and this is the banjo that I took out of the old one. That really won't be allowing much water through, will it? That's RTV. That's what happens when you use too much gasket. Don't do that. Well, got the turbo in, the alternator in, everything back together. Intercooler back on, all the hoses, clips, bolts, heat shields, airbox, everything back together. Maybe prematurely. I was very confident that this was going to be done, but then I started it up and we have oil coming out of the turbo. I've already cleaned some of it up there. I'm pretty sure I've messed up the gasket on the oil return pipe, which is just right in there, right there. Here. This. So I'm going to have to pull that return pipe back off and get that oil there. I'm going to have to pull the return pipe back off and try and fix that gasket. Okay, that's a better shot there, better angle. You can see there, that's the flange. I think this is the gasket sticking out the side. It's incredibly difficult to do, which is probably why I seem to have messed it up. So we're just going to have to take that off again and try and get it sealed properly this time. Alright, we're back together again. I made a new gasket out of some universal gasket paper, so we're ready to start this again. Let's hope this time there's no leaks. Alright, this is where we're at with the plastics. So they're all sanded. They've all been primed in places where I had to put some filler, like there's been fillered and primed. So you have the spots on some of the arches have been done. There was a spot there, spot here. But yeah, these have been all rubbed down. Now I'm going to paint them. I'm going to paint them the original Mitsubishi beige, but there's a lot of it. You wouldn't think there was as much plastic on one car. So that's going to be interesting. I'm not a painter, nor do I proclaim to be any good at it, but it's bound to look better than it did before, because you know it was all sort of faded through and lacquer was peeling. There was dents and scrapes. This is all dented in the and scraped in the corner of the rear bumper. And where I can't even tell now if it's this one. No, this one. This is the side skirt cover. It was all worn through completely there, where I would be getting in and out. My boot scraped all the paint off, so it was completely black. And then this is the plastic of the other bull bar that I'm going to refit. It had a bit of damage here, and I'm not worried too much about that. But I'm going to paint it the same colour while I'm there. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. I'm expecting many different insects to land on this. The weather's good, so it's going to be warm, it's going to be dry, there's no wind, so it's perfect for spraying outside. And maybe the sun will act like an oven to help the lacquer cure. Yes, look at that! These have been baking in the searing hot Northern Irish sunshine for, well, yesterday evening. It's now the morning after I painted them. They're all dry. I think for a first attempt that is pretty awesome. There's a few marks that I actually knew most about before I painted it, but I was just like filling and sanding at that stage. I just wanted to get them painted. But the bumpers have turned out really well. They were probably the worst. This one here had a lot of damage and scrapes down this side, which is, I mean, there's a few wee small bits there, but it looks pretty good. And the bull bar plastic's all colour coded in as well. So yeah, I cannot wait to get these put on. That was probably the worst looking part of that car and the biggest job to rectify. So there's no runs, but I think that's probably because I was a bit light on the clear coat. You can see sort of an orange peel effect there, but I mean, these are like rough plastics anyway, so I'm not too worried. But I would say if it was just a wee bit heavier on the clear coat, we might have got a slightly glossier finish. You can see on the bumpers, especially the rear ones here, I was, you know, that's a really good shine on that. Yeah, very happy with these. Something crawled across this one after it was done. I also didn't like the black wheel arches, so I had a bit of paint left and I just couldn't help myself. I had to paint them back in the factory gold, and I think it looks awesome. I might run some satin over the chassis there just to make it pop a wee bit. All of the arches now done in the gold, and I put the gold on the sill repair pieces as well. So we're ready to put this back together. Just check that side. How about that? That looks amazing. You may or may not be able to tell, but it is not summertime anymore. It's about 5 months later since I did the work on this, but it still looks good. Fitted the bonnet bra, new wind deflectors as well. Still looks awesome in around those back arches. So the main reason why I did all that work, although I did want to do it because I've had this car for years and that has annoyed me for a long time, was because I wanted to turn it into like an overlander. And I did that. We went out a few times and it was all good. But the last time we had it loaded up, we were heading for the beach. It was going to be a lovely summer's night. There was other people heading. We were going to meet up with some people, have a barbecue, and guess what happened? Decided to overheat. These Pajeros kind of get a bad rep for that, but like they are 30 years old and the cooling systems have probably never really been maintained. Mine had been, and I had put new hoses and stuff on the radiator. She's been flushed, she got the new fresh coolant and everything, but she must have just decided to crack the cylinder head while we were driving and pressurizes the coolant system, and then that pushes the coolant out into the overflow, loses it, and then she overheats. So I mean, she does start and she does drive, but she won't drive very far. Once it starts to get warm, then lots of problems happen. So although this video is finished for the work I've done on it, the aesthetic work and prolonging the life of it hopefully, I do now need to put a new cylinder head on. So I haven't decided whether to take the engine out to do it, because the rear main seal leaks, injector pump still leaks, and it would just be all round easier. But at the same time, if I take it out and strip it down, it could be an awfully long time before it goes back in. So I'm thinking I might just put a new head on. It's not a huge job. I've done one before. In fact, I did the head on this. I put a new head gasket on this one years ago and noticed that the head was cracked at the time, but there was no pressurizing problem, so I just left it. I mean, that was probably 8 or 10 years ago. So it didn't do too bad. Cylinder heads aren't that super expensive either, and when you take the head off on these 4 M40s, you like expose the top of the timing cover, and if you don't take the timing cover off, sorry, if you don't take the cylinder head off when you do the timing cover, it messes up the gasket and everything. So I'm thinking I'll take the head off, take the head off, take the timing cover off, do a full timing chain kit, because I only put the split link chain in and I can still hear noise in there, so pretty confident that the guides are probably not going to be in great shape. So I'll do the chain kit on the front, and then that'll be the timing cover back on, new gasket, new head, and she should be good for another 30 years. So that's what's going to come up in the next video. I can also do a video on all this stuff I did on the top, and the tent and the boxes and the storage and stuff that I put inside the back, if anyone's really interested. But for now, that's going to have to do us. So hope you enjoyed watching that one. I did mostly enjoy doing it. I kind of enjoy looking at it now instead of doing it, because those plastics really annoyed me, but they are awesome now, still glistening away. So So yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you for a cylinder head.